Sneakers is a comedy thriller directed by Phil Alden Robinson, released in 1992.
It's about a team of security specialists led by Martin Bishop, who's played by Robert Redford. Their company checks the security weaknesses of various institutions. At the start we see them breaking into a bank to test their security setup, and then they tell them what they need to do to improve their security. It's approached by the NSA to recover a so-called black box from a mathematician who allegedly has created it for the Russians, and it has various capabilities of accessing various things. They're a bit sort of sketchy on the details. They know his real identity. Martin Bishop is not his real name. We see at the start of the film his friend Cosmo used university computers back in 1969 to hack into conservative institutions and redistribute their money to liberal causes. At the start we see that Cosmo is captured by the police while Martin is out getting a pizza. Yeah, these NSA guys know his real identity and say, if he does this job then they will clear his record, so he doesn't have to be on the run and use a false name anymore. It reminded me a lot of Mission Impossible, to be honest, watching it again.
Did you mean the original?
Well, I just mean, the Mission Impossible franchise that's going
Yeah,
now.
it reminded
could have
me
been
of
a Mission Impossible script, to be honest.
Yeah, it reminded me more of the original Mission Impossible. Obviously, they've got so kind of big and explosive now that but that original one was it's much smaller, isn't it? That original film.
Yeah.
Emilio Estevez's in there, isn't he? And people like that, and it's a much kind of small, not as we know Mission Impossible today, which is a kind of explosive and him hanging on the side of planes and all that kind of stuff. We just don't get in this. Two films I could think of, and they're actually linked with characters in the film anyway. Obviously, Robert Redford he was in 3 Days of the Condor, which is a 1970s film with Faye Dunaway. And weirdly, in that, at the beginning of that, he works for a kind of, I can't exactly remember, seen it for years, but he works for a group who they're in the government or they're in some kind of, and he comes across something while they're looking at data for something. And he goes out for sandwiches and they all get killed at the beginning of the film, and he obviously comes back. So that's kind of maybe a direct link to this one. There was also a little bit of Running on Empty. So Running on Empty is another River Phoenix film where his parents are running away. They're kind of on the run. I think they're more activists in that film, and they're involved in a bombing or something, and him and his family are on the run. So there's kind of I found a couple of links to those films, but a lot of the 70s films are that kind of paranoid, conspiracy thriller. Obviously the most famous one, All the President's Men, also Robert Redford. Klute is another one, which is kind of very paranoid thriller from that time. Loads of
Conversation. The
Conversation, of course, another great one, and then we got quite a lot of them in the 90s again. Obviously we got Enemy of the State. Which came out.
Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson.
Conspiracy Theory. This is more comedy.
Yeah.
It's great fun though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I hadn't seen it for years and years. I mean, I've definitely seen it since the first time I saw it. It's so much fun actually, and it's a great cast. Dan Aykroyd and Robert Redford and Sidney Poitier, River Phoenix. Mary McDonnell plays the love interest of Robert Redford,
and David Strathairn as well.
Sorry, yeah. It's a great cast with some great lines. Robert Redford is a kind of and Sidney Poitier too. They were around in the 60s and the 70s, and they made some classic films about then. And Robert Redford is kind of like that leading man, isn't he? I mean, he's kind of the George Clooney of the day. I mean, Humphrey Bogart. You got Humphrey Bogart, Robert Redford, George Clooney. They always had like great lines. There's a number of great lines in this. There was one I thought, which is it when he's like introduced to members from the NSA, and he's like, "Oh, you're the guys who are on the other end of the phone."
I can hear breathing.
I can hear wind. That's the line, isn't it?
And he goes, "No, that's the FBI."
That's right. Yeah. So I mean, it's one of those films that it's nothing you've never seen before.
No.
But it's got a lot of great stuff in there.
I mean, I think the cast, everyone is basically playing exactly who you would expect.
Who you would expect, totally, yeah, definitely.
Sort of kind of perfect casting or obvious casting, I don't know.
Although, actually, you say that, I mean, it is perfect casting, and they do play to type, except River Phoenix. So it's kind of an odd one for him, because up until this point, he'd made so many. I mean, we did My Private Idaho a few months ago, which was after this one. So he was, he's obviously gone down in history and he was an exceptional actor, and everyone was, what would he do next? But then this is an odd choice because this feels quite commercial for him, which is fine, and that's totally fine for actors to do that. To me, it's slightly odd because he's not in it much.
No,
he doesn't have a huge amount to do.
He doesn't, no.
And then what he has to do doesn't get him to act a lot.
No.
And in his kind of extraordinary, there's no like amazing emotional scenes
No.
or any depth from him in this film. It's just kind of so maybe it's just a route into something bigger, or who knows? Because it was around this time that he passed away a couple of years later.
Yeah.
Anyway, so but apart from that, I mean, he's great in it, and he's great fun, and there's a really wonderful. They have a party one night, and there's a quick moment where they're all dancing with Robert Redford's character's ex-wife or ex-girlfriend in it. And it's just a short moment with all of them dancing with her. I don't know why it was put in, but it was great fun, and it's just the moment he does is quite fun. I just always remember that sequence. It's very short, but it's quite memorable. That sequence.
Yeah, it kind of gives their characters in through the medium of dance.
Exactly.
They're all dancing completely different ways with her, and he's like doing this crazy nuts.
It's just crazy nuts dance.
Yeah, if you're a fan of like maybe the first Mission Impossible, and just conspiracy, drama, thrillers in general. While this one is a bit lighter, it's not, it kind of, some of these films often become a bit too complicated. I mean, even the first Mission Impossible kind of almost collapses under the own weight of its plot and how convoluted it becomes. Whereas this one, it certainly isn't. You always know what's going on. The plot isn't overly complicated. And yes, there are double crosses and things like spying and things like that. That's not to say it's sort of dumbed down or anything like that. I think there's the line between dumbing something down or being overly complicated. It's right in the middle where it's just right. It doesn't require too much concentration, but it also it's intelligent enough to keep you engaged and to keep you interested. And obviously, the theme of it kind of is around data, collecting data and the use of data, which at the time wasn't really something that we ever thought about particularly.
No.
But there's a line about it's not about money or anything anymore. It's all about it's all about data.
Well, I think that's like one of the last lines in the film.
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah,
and
which is so true today.
Exactly.
I mean, every single thing, everything is controlled by the internet and data. And
I mean, if it was made now, you'd have countless scenes of people sat in front of screens tapping on keyboards, which is so tedious.
Which is actually what I really like, because literally a film like this today would be hundreds of big screens everywhere, and everyone would have the most. I mean, they have this big kind of office. It's like a warehouse type place, and there's they got all the gear, and they got like tape, a little bit like the scene in when you see Gene Hackman's office in The Conversation. There's lots of like tape recorders and reel to reel and all this kind of great stuff. Nowadays, obviously, it would just all be like iPods and iPhones and lots of screens everywhere, and it'll be young as well. It'll be like 15.
It's quite refreshing to have something that about that kind of thing, but isn't constantly making you watch
There
screens.
was one scene that I really enjoyed actually, where they start. So David Strathairn's character, who's actually blind in the film, they've got this black box, and they've had this party, like I mentioned a minute ago. It's at the end of the party where they're kind of winding down. Robert Redford and Mary McDonnell and Sidney Poitier and his wife's character are playing some Scrabble, and then David Strathairn is with the box, and he starts coming into what it actually is, and then they get some line of code, and they've got a name, C-Tech Astronomy or something, and then suddenly Robert Redford's like, oh, that's not a real name. And he starts, obviously gets all the pieces, and he starts like making anagrams out of that word. And I just thought, wow, that's really cool, because nowadays you could just put that onto the computer and it'd be done like that. But he actually has to use his brain.
Yes.
And in a fun way. Hands. And in a way that's a callback, because what's quite interesting at the very beginning of the film, when they have the introduction, when they flip up the names of the director and the producers, they all start in code. They have them in code, and then they flip into, like, goes through different letters, and then you get the name of the director and the writer and the producers. So I just thought it was a nice kind of throwback to a time before the internet.
A simpler time.
A simpler time, exactly, where they don't have computers for everything, and they have to use their brains a little bit. So yeah, it's amazing how, although they're pretty much doing the same thing as people do now, just much more, we do it in a much more advanced way nowadays. But it's so interesting to go back to those films and see, God, they seem so dated now, so dated.
Well, I mean, mentioning the original Mission Impossible again, there's using emails and things in that, and even then, I didn't have an email address or anything when that film came out. It's like,
it was so before anyone's
like an
time.
animated envelope as the email is sent.
Yeah, dial up.
He must have had really good dial up in that, because the messages came through instantly.
I remember seeing a friend of mine had, his dad worked for like some business that they were able to have a computer in their house, basically. And I remember me and another friend went round. So I'd seen the internet at school, but it had been turfed out by the computer kids, saying, "Oh, you won't like this. It's you won't understand it." So we were like, "All right,
Whatever.
fine," and we left. And then my friend was like, "You've got to come." So we went round my friend's house, and he was like, "You have to see this. It's amazing." Now we were 15. I won't say. Okay, well I won't say what we downloaded. So he downloaded a picture for us. We were 15. Well, younger than that. I was about 14. Teenage boy at school, so I'm not going to say, you work it out what we downloaded, but it took forever. I mean, it literally, went did in the top left hand corner of this page, did, and it was like black and white. You could hardly see it, and we were like, "Oh my god, that's amazing! That's the future right there and then." It just, I mean, it's crazy.
Now it's just a cesspool.
Of those pictures everywhere. Yeah, you don't even have to think. You think about it and they're there. It's just a crazy world we live in. I mean, literally then it was dial up. Now we are connected the whole time.
Yeah,
so
everything's instant, isn't it?
Yeah, so that the world in sneakers is even more. That kind of espionage world is way more terrifying now, anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's great fun. It's it's not. It's you love it or you hate it, but I think it's great fun and it's really enjoyable.
It's well made and well acted, and it's just a fun little film. You've got Ben Kingsley in there as well.
Oh, I wasn't going to say him because was he spoilery?
Oh, well, now you've said he's spoilery, he is. Yeah, I wasn't going to say who he was going to play. But hey ho,
it's a great film, and we both clearly like it, clearly enjoy it, but has more of a place in your heart.
It does, yeah. Well, my dad passed away a few weeks ago. We used to rent out movies from the video library every week. One weekend we picked Sneakers. I think when it was obviously quite new, watched it, all enjoyed it, and then I think a few weeks later. Normally we would go as a family, or I'd go with my dad or whatever, but we let him go on his own, which didn't happen very often, because he'd normally come back with some sort of Brian Dennehy film about a real life person, which would be incredibly dull. So, no offence to Brian Dennehy, he was obviously a fine actor, but there's only so many times you can watch his...
John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, he went on his own, and he came back with Sneakers, and we're like, we watched this a few weeks ago. Just like, did we? I mean, he did have a penchant for falling asleep in front of the TV quite often. Fair play, probably forgot that we watched it, but we made him go back and pick something else. And forever then, whenever we went, we'd say, oh, do you want to watch Sneakers? We never let him forget it.
Amazing.
So, so I've got it on DVD, and this is his DVD that I bought him as a gift.
I love it. Excellent. Amazing.
And he left me in his will.
Great.
Not really. But it would have been hilarious if you had.
It would have been hilarious, yeah, amazing.
But yeah, whether he ever watched it, I don't know. Probably just like, oh, for God's sake, not this film again. So yeah, this is the DVD that I bought him as a gift many years ago. I'm sure he watched it on a monthly basis. Or maybe just the once. It is available on Blu-ray as well. I mean, I think in the UK it's out of print, so it's quite hard to track down. In the US it's more readily available. But if you do want it, I mean, the US one is the one to go for because it does have some extras on it. It's got a commentary, and I think it's got a making of, which is, I think, quite a long, I think it's about 40 odd minutes or something, so quite meaty behind the scenes stuff on there. Whereas this doesn't, this has the usual production notes and theatrical trailer and things like that, so nothing particularly exciting. This is quite an old DVD, so the picture's not great. I mean, I don't think the Blu-ray is amazing quality, obviously going to be better than this, but again, it's one of those films that probably could do with a bit of TLC, bit of a clean up, but whether it will get it, I don't think. It's not completely unheard of.
No, not at all. I don't think. No,
it's.
I mean, it's I feel like it's slipped by the wayside a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
But
I think again because of the sort of what it's about, it's kind of because there's not an over reliance on constantly using computers and things like that. It's not. It's dated, but not too much, I don't think. And obviously, like I said, the themes of it still, are very relevant now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So anyway, this one was for you, Dad. And I know how much you'd love this film.
So that was Sneakers, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, let us know in the comments below.
Hit the subscribe button up there. Don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. There's some other videos to check out over there. Come and find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And make sure you come back next week for another video.